Hello again, I am Blunty. I'm a little tired. Haven't got much sleep over the last day and a half because approximately a day and a half ago, New World launched. Wow. Launched. In heavy inverted commas. When I predicted the launch was going to be a disaster, that was an understatement. It's an understatement on the scale of if I told you Sol, the star at the center of our solar system, the sun to you smooth brains out there. If I told you the sun was a bit warm, that's the kind of disparity of understatement I'm talking about when I said the launch was going to be a disaster, a catastrophe. Those words aren't big enough. There's not enough adjectives with them. Needs more, because it was so much worse than a catastrophe. So much worse. If you had a so much worse than catastrophic experience, let me know down below. I'm going to tell you some of the stuff that's happened to me and some of the people I know are playing, but let me know your experiences of launch day in the down below area. While you're down there, do the thumb and the bell and stuff like that and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, share your experience too, because I'm hearing a lot of different stories on a lot of different things going wrong. Every possible thing you could imagine going wrong, someone's had it go wrong, I reckon. Let's find out. The video I made pre-launch where I predicted the launch would be pretty catastrophic because of a few specific issues I talked about in that video, mainly the way they were doing a rollout across the globe, like starting a service here and then there and then there and then there, which seems sensible except for the fact they use global names, so anyone who wanted to save a specific name pretty much had to log into the European servers, the first ones up, to try and save their name, which would overwhelm and overload the European servers, screwing up the experience for the Europeans just trying to play the game in the first place and making everyone's life a general nightmare. That was one of the core issues. And I was told I was overreacting. It's not that big of a deal, Blunty. It'll be fine. It's Amazon. They run 80% of the web. It's Amazon Web Services. They know what they're doing. It'll be fine. You're overreacting. Stop crying like a little baby. And oh my gosh, what happened? The launch was a complete and utter burning garbage fire of a clown orgy of a disaster. Shock! Who could have predicted such a thing except for this guy? This is where I put on my big fucking smug face and tell you should apologize for me, for second guessing me. I know what I'm talking about, you little shits! Except I'm not feeling smug about it because I did hope that Amazon were smart enough to anticipate this. I thought maybe they've got some sort of special magic server source, you know, it's just sitting there anticipating this, expecting this, because any idiot could have predicted it, but no, it was still a horrific disaster for Europeans. But once that was over, I thought, okay, it'll be fine from here on in. The Australian servers will launch, and then the East Coast Americans and the West Coast Americans, might have been the other way around. Which way did the sun go again? Amazon horrifically mismanaged the launch. It was terrible. The communication was terrible. Their servers were terrible. Well, the servers weren't terrible. If you managed to get onto a server, the game was running pretty good for most people. The main server, the company I'm with, did not experience a perfect launch. There are people running around completely invulnerable, which means they had a massive unfair advantage and have kept that unfair advantage. They're no longer invulnerable after a server reboot, but all the stuff they did while they were invulnerable, rushing to high-level areas, gathering mats with impunity, not having to work at the game, just running around going, whee, everything's mine, and you know, screaming through PvP players who didn't happen to have the invulnerability advantage. The first main dungeon, a very key point in the game's opening sort of arc and story mode and stuff, where you're led to this first dungeon and you're taught about the expeditions. That was completely bugged, unplayable. At least two members of the company that I'm with burned their keys, because you have to spend a key. There's a special object you need to open up the dungeon. You get given one for the quest. They're very difficult to craft more of them. They need a lot of sort of expensive materials. You need a high-level crafting, and you know, these things, they don't come cheap. So they got effed over in the ass, and other servers had completely different issues as he went along. For some reason, Amazon completely miscalculated how many servers they expected to need. Australia launched with, I think, about 11 servers over several different world sets. So a world set you can think of as basically the server hardware. So we had several world sets, and on those sets were several worlds each. They do this so they can later merge worlds nice and easily if they need to do that for population control and things like that, or add on more worlds into a specific set and migrate people across. And how badly did they miscalculate? Well, within 12 hours, they had to add 23 additional servers to America alone. Australia went from 11 worlds to 40 worlds. That's how badly they got it wrong there. That's how overcrowded every single server was for the first 12 hours or 24 hours. When did they bring up the Australian servers? It was at least, I think they added 3 more after about 5 hours. And more added on ever since. Part of the problem was because they only have AP service, Asia Pacific service. So the server sitting in Sydney, where I am, so I get great ping, but the server sitting in Sydney service all of Australia and all of the Asia Pacific region. Turns out that's a lot of people who want to play this game. From 11 worlds to 40 to account for the capacity. That is how badly Amazon planned. That is how catastrophically, woefully inept they were when they were going, how many servers you reckon we're going to need per region? Asia Pacific? 11. No, at least 40 within 24 hours. I had a fantastically bad time because I was already organized with a company that I've been playing with since closed beta. And we selected a server beforehand. Of course you do, because you want everybody in the company to be on the same server, because otherwise it doesn't work, because there's no inter-server stuff. So we all decided on a server, and I was streaming this at the time. Went to select my server, I was refreshing the server list come launch time to see when the servers are up. Oh, the servers are up! Back out, go to character creator, select the server, and on we go. So my server was highlighted in the list of servers, big highlighted bar over the server I wanted to connect to. Went fine, click, go forward. There was a confirm screen. It was like, hey, you can only have 1 character per server. You sure? Click confirm again. What I didn't do was read that screen completely because there was a UI bug of some kind, which meant the server that I had selected wasn't the server it actually was joining. I didn't see it at the time because I'd clicked through that screen dozens of times before in previous betas and tests and previews and alphas and things like that. So I knew the flow of it. I didn't have to read that whole thing. I knew what it said. But up top, it just said a completely different server name for some reason. Not the one that was highlighted, a completely different server. Not just a completely different server. Like, it would make some sense if it was, oops, it went to one of the other worlds on the same server set, the same hardware. No, it was a completely different set of hardware. It just spat me out sideways somewhere. But I didn't notice that. And there was another UI bug in the game itself, where you would normally bring up your character screen, and it's, it will have the little name of the world you're on. So it should say the server name, basically, on a couple of different places in the UI. That was blank for me. I went, oh, that's a bit of a weird bug. Oh, well. 4.5 hours of progress later, I was having a great time, having fun. I was going, well, I can't see any of my guildies around. Surely some of them are at the same starting beach as me. I can't see any familiar names. Weird. But it got to the point where different companies started buying territory. And someone was in my Twitch chat saying, oh, your company got so-and-so territory, or your faction got so-and-so territory. I'm like, no, they didn't. I'm in that town. This town is yellow, not purple. And so I went, I better check on that. Logged out, hoping for the 5-minute leeway to log back in so you don't join a queue that allegedly exists. Some people have had success with that, some people haven't. Again, wild inconsistency there. And I was on a completely different server. After 4.5 hours of progress in game, completely disconnected from my company. I was pretty mad. I had a big old hissy fit about it. Being sort of secretly shoved to a different server when clearly the server I selected was right there with a big colored bar across it. And I've got the, recorded footage that shows that. And I'm not the only one who got effed over by that as well. There's a few people complaining about it on the official forums. Some people within my own company got hit by it as well. And some other people in different regions, from my own Twitch audience said they experienced the same problem. So that was a huge pain in the ass. So I had to make a decision. Do I just keep playing and find a different company? I don't want to do that. I've built a relationship with some of the people who lead the company and everything, and we've got plans and stuff, and I wanted to be a big part of those plans. I wanted to go, I wanted to be a big supportive member of the company and sort of feed our crafters and, do all the good things and be an active part of our community. And I couldn't do any of that because I wasn't in the company server for reasons that are not my fault. So I was very angry about that. So now I'm lagging behind the rest of the company. So I had a decision to make. Do I delete this character and start fresh because I wanted to keep the name? Or do I wait and see if they solve this? And I went, I'll wait and see if they solve it. So I logged back in with my character, got in pretty much straight away after a short queue, which was okay. But then I started to play it and I was like, all of my enthusiasm is gone. I know this character is probably just going to be thrown in the bin. I can hope they offer server transfers, but they haven't said anything about that in the past. And even if there were server transfers, it'd be more likely to be able to do it between sets or between worlds on a single set rather than between complete different sets. So I decided not to hope and pray for that, however long that might take, and I deleted the character and started fresh on the proper company server, which had a 25,000 people long queue for login. So at that point, I stopped the stream. 6 or 7 hours later, so I eventually got back in and started from scratch, and now I'm way behind my other guildies on there. And then the guild decided to, well, a lot of the guild is having trouble getting into this overcrowded server that we're on with the massive queues and everything. So we're going to split the guild up, split the company up. So now we're splintered. So we can't even work together like I wanted to in the first place, which is even more frustrating. So we've got two separate half companies going on. Neither of them have enough numbers to make any kind of meaningful influence on the server around us. So that's more frustrating than ever. And like my playtime versus my game time, waiting in queues versus how much I played on my character, 11 hours worth of progress on my prime character now. My Steam has recorded my actual playtime as 26 hours. That's how long the game has been active versus how long I've been able to actually play. 11 versus 26 over the last day and a half. So given all this, the other problem is now on these crowded servers, nobody logs out when they're done playing because they never know if or when they're going to be able to log in again. So every single town you go to and every single safe spot out in the world, you will always see a few to a few dozen people running into corners, trying to avoid the automatic logout that happens after 20, 25 minutes worth of inactivity. So they've got little macros going. They're running into corners, or you've got someone standing in a corner, and every 15 seconds or so, you'll see them do a weapon action or do a jump. You know, someone just running a macro, hoping they don't get logged out, because who knows when they're going to be able to log back in again. So that means nobody's logging out, which means the queue times are even longer, which means these greedy arseholes not logging out when they're done are just soaking up server time for no reason, so nobody else can fucking play on the server. It's a shitty move, but they feel forced into it because they just want to be able to play. They paid for the game. They want to be able to play the game they played, so they've got to find a workaround somehow. And the way they do it is this selfish, shitty AFK dodging. And then, at one point, they restarted the servers to try and fix some issues, and a bunch of people got desynced from the company. So there were people in the company, as far as the list was concerned, but they were not in the company on their end, or vice versa. It might have been both, or one or the other, whatever it was, but there was a massive bug there. And it was impossible to kick them out of the company because they weren't in the company, but their name was in the company list, so they couldn't be re-invited to the company. So there's a bunch of people in our company that are in our company that want to be, and that took a few hours to work out as well. Then there was another bug where if you did get logged out because of a server reset or something, your character on your beginning screen would say level 1 instead of level 12 or level 10 or whatever you were at. And so a bunch of people freaked out, has my character just been reset? No communication about that, just a weird bug. So then about 24 hours after all of this catastrophic bullshit, Amazon were out there going, we understand you're having a bit of a rough time. Yeah, no shit. Way to understate it. So what we're going to do is put more servers on. That's not the solution. People want to play together. So what they've done is capped each individual world at just 2,000 players. That's a tiny number in comparison to what they were supposed to be able to support. Their announced plan, they said these servers, years ago when they were talking about the server technology, we've got this leading class server technology, and our plan is to support up to 10,000 players per server. And that's great. It's not practical with the size of the map the way it is right now, but we know they've tested at least 3,500 in the closed beta. I think they tested that in. They don't really talk about numbers very often, but that number did come up in the closed beta. So why they capped at 2,000? Probably to try and keep server issues under control. Keep it at 2,000, wait to see if it's stable, then expand it over time, wait to see if it's stable, wait to expand it over time. That seems sensible. Turns out it's not sensible, especially when you desperately roll out new servers to account for load, which means more and more companies are being shuttered up or having to restart characters, and just, it's a miserable experience right now. I am very grouchy about the whole thing. But they did dangle a bit of hope out in front of us. They're going, if you want to play on a different low population server that we just rolled out, sure, you can't play with any of your friends right now unless they too abandon their existing characters and start a new one on the server. But sometime later down the track, in about 2 weeks' time-ish, we'll offer you a free server transfer to a new server of your choice. Which sounds fantastic, which means you can do all the early game grind and then, hopefully get smooshed together with your mates and pick a new server together. It's not an ideal solution, but it is a workable solution, except they haven't been very clear about their wording, because their wording says a new server does that mean a literal new server? Does that mean all of us on the OG servers that are currently very crowded, are they going to lock out people from transferring to those because they are already overcrowded? Is that what's going to happen? We don't know. Thousands of people have been asking Amazon to be pretty much a bit clearer about this so we can make some plans, but no. The communication seems like, So now we've got a situation where some servers are massively overcrowded. Nothing we can do about it at this stage, especially if you've already got a character, progressing on there. Nobody's logging out of fear. Those people who are sitting in queues of, 2,000 up to 24,000 long queues on some servers, maybe more on others. I saw a number of 31,000 at one point. At one point, they stopped letting people queue up at all because the queues were getting so massively overcrowded in the first place. But then there's stories coming out of people queuing up from, 20,000 long, spending 6-7 hours in the queue, just waiting, hoping, praying. Then they get to the end of the queue and it crashes on login. I had a similar issue when I restarted my character to go on the company server, and I had, I waited in the big long queue for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and then I logged in, started the tutorial, and the tutorial had a bug that stopped me progressing. I couldn't interact with the guy sitting on the beach that I'm supposed to interact with at the very start of the tutorial. So I had to Alt F4, re-log in, and join another queue. So then I had to wait in queue again. But this time, knowing that if I go in, I won't even bother trying the tutorial. I'll just press, go to the menu and skip the tutorial thing, which is something you can do. But I wanted to progress through the tutorial because you do get some action points, or attribute points, I should say. If you do the tutorial, you also get a few bits of starter equipment, basically. So now we're in a situation where I went to log on to the most crowded AP server, the most crowded Australian server. I went to log in this morning and I got right in at about, I think I tried to log in about 6 a.m. And other people in the company are getting right in as well, or facing, comparatively short queues. So what has happened is a bunch of people have had to either just abandon and give up on the game, maybe forever, maybe just wait, which means the population is just farted out. Companies are splintering all over the place, or they're starting brand new characters on a different server, having to redo all the progress they did or couldn't get done in the first, day and a half of the game, and hoping and praying that the server transfer Amazon give us later on works like we hope it works and doesn't fuck us over again. Fingers crossed on that one. Who knows? Again, they haven't been really clear about the language they're using on the communications about that kind of stuff. So a lot of people are abandoning the game. Companies are splintering all over the place. It's a miserable, pathetic experience. There are bugs and issues going on everywhere. But when the servers do work, they're working quite smoothly. Like I haven't found any sort of lag issues or desync issues. And the servers are working. The parts of the servers that work are working properly and fantastically. And if the launch had gone smoother, I think there'd be a lot of very happy people out there. Oh, and of course, because so many people are having such a miserable friggin' time with it, it has been review bombed on Steam. So yeah, I'm very disheartened about the whole thing. A lot of my enthusiasm, a lot of the wind in my sails has been sucked out. But at least when I am in the game, playing my main character on the server I wanted to be on in the first place, I am enjoying it as much as I was enjoying it in the betas and the previews and all that sort of stuff I played before. I'm happy the final game is here, but my God. When I predicted the launch would be a disaster, I understated. So, thank you for sitting with me out of either curiosity or hoping the game is going to be fixed soon. It seems to be getting better. Who knows? I would still hold off. The weekend's going to be interesting. The load that's going to come with the weekend is going to be real interesting to see what happens there. If if you do want to try and play with me, you're playing an AP service, I'm in Utopia. Thank you for sharing your stories in the down below, if you've done that so far, of course. Yeah, and thank you just for letting me get this off my chest, and hopefully you found it interesting or informative or whatever. And thank you, as always, to the patrons who are scrolling up above there as well, whose above and beyond support is fantastic. Never disappointed in you. To the rest of you, thanks for making it to the end of the video as well. I am Blunty. Thank you for watching. And we'll catch you next time, and see you in Eternium. Maybe. If the wind is coming from the south, and I stand on one foot when I try and log in, and I say the magic words, fuck you, Bezos! I know Bezos isn't CEO anymore, but I don't know who is, and Bezos is just the name you associate with Amazon, so. Good magic word.